Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A quick info before we begin. Today's video has 2 stories and both of them have updates. Now let's get started with the first one. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user messedupthrowaway767. I, 29 female, read my boyfriend, 27 male, of 3 years, journals, and now I'm worried he's not happy being tied down. Oh man, here we go. My man is out of town and so I thought I'd clean up some junk from our closets and mostly just stay busy so I don't sit around missing him. I know, it's sad, but I really love this man. So in my cleaning, I stumbled upon a huge stack of journals my boyfriend had written from when he traveled. Idest lived as a vagrant for the most part. I should have started with his backstory. My boyfriend left home at 18 with nothing but some clothes and his motorcycle. He traveled and worked odd jobs for nearly 5 years. I know he's worked as everything from a simple dock worker to working on oil rigs and a lot of craziness in between. And I know he's been to pretty much every state you could drive to. He's told me stories of life on the road and I can tell he misses it when he talks about it. I didn't realize how much he missed it until I found his journals. And one thing that bothers me is he hid them well. This statement bothers me. Sorry, back to my issue. I read most of them and some of the things in there are shocking to say the least. In there, he's written about things I could never see him doing in a million years. Everything from crazy bar fights at some biker bar to running from the police to bribing the police in Mexico after getting busted drinking and driving and all kinds of craziness. I get that's past and he can't change or whatever. I kind of wish he'd have shared this with me, but maybe he's not proud of it. Honestly, if his journals were a book, it would be an exciting story. My real problem lies with some of his newest entries, where he's writing about how much he misses the freedom to travel without being tied down. Now, he did write some very sweet things about the first time we met, and it was sweet reading about how he fell in love with me and the doubts he had about his feelings. In none of the entries did he write about our long-term future, where he does write about traveling in the future. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but my main concern is his yearning to hit the road, and our future together if there is one. Okay, now for the questions. Should I tell him I found and read his journals? Should I be worried that one day he'll just get tired of being stuck in one place and leave out of the blue? Or should I just ignore the journals and pretend like nothing happened? Well, OP, first of all, what you did was a huge invasion of privacy and you basically broke his trust. I mean, he doesn't know it yet, he should because you should come clean about what you did, but still, not cool. And I gotta say, it's doubly not cool the fact that you're complaining that he hid them so well. Journals are private. My wife has journals. She keeps them in her nightstand. And even though I've had so many chances of reading them, I've never even been interested in touching them because I know those are her personal thoughts and if she wanted to share them with me, she would just give them to me and ask my opinion. So to start answering your questions, should you tell him that you found and read his journals? Yes, what he decides to do after that is on him, but yeah, you should come clean about this. That sucks that you did it. Should you be worried that he'll just get tired of being stuck? Well, isn't that the gamble that every relationship has? That at some point one of the partners will just outgrow the other or fall out of love, or maybe not and they'll live happily ever after? And I guess the third question we can just easily not answer because first of all, you gotta come clean like I said, and pretend like nothing happened. Like what happened? That you didn't break his trust? OP, I'm sorry to say I've got no idea how he may react to you reading his journals, but you've gotta come clean. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. A Gamer Girl 90 says, and here's the other thing, journals are like this subreddit. Nobody writes in them to say, hey, everything's great today. They're for working out your thoughts, feelings, and innermost private thoughts, which is why it's so disgusting you read them without even a hint of self-awareness. The fact that he's writing them down suggests he's aware of them and is expressing himself in what he believes to be a safe place for those thoughts. He's going to talk about regrets he has, things he misses, and fears of his because that's what they're for. They're not for "it's Tuesday and all is well," so those thoughts never make it to paper. Olga's laptop says, so you read about a third of his life, from 18 to 27. The sum of his adult life today, where he has been footloose and fancy-free and happy at it. He also writes that he loves you. Take that as a win. So besides the snooping on him, which if genders were reversed would have every other female redditor ready to geld him, why would you expect him to engage in long-term thinking at this time when he has lived a life where sometimes he wouldn't know where he was going to sleep when he woke up? And you should tell him you read them and found them fascinating, but apologize for invading his privacy. Show him what the long term could offer him. If it comes to pass at some future point, you can bring up the long term and your fear that he'll put on Skinner's Freebird and disappear out of your life. And Opie responds, I know I messed up bad. I hope he can forgive me. Judge Holtman says, I spent a significant amount of effort crafting a future for myself. There was a plan, I was sticking to it, and settling down with someone was all part of it. However, it wasn't until about a week after I was actually married that I started realizing all my plans were based on decisions I would have to make, and hadn't considered the fact that my wife may have an opinion. We had both discussed life plans together previously, but it wasn't until things were permanent that I started planning with us in mind instead of just me. Maybe your boyfriend simply hasn't clicked over in that mindset yet. The good news is that you now have the answer key to his hopes and dreams. While it was a big violation of privacy, Pandora's box has been opened and you can now use this information to start pitching ideas like travel you know he'll like. If you're not up for that life though, maybe it's time to do some navel gazing and figure out what you want out of life. And Opie responds, I've never really traveled outside of visiting family. It might be fun. I'm always willing to try something new. He'll be back tonight. I talked to him about maybe running off together one weekend just to point the bike in a direction and see where we end up. Additional information from Opie's comments. A lot of you are angry about my complaint regarding my boyfriend hiding his journal so well. Yeah, me too. I'm sorry. I should have made that clear. I am very sorry I invaded his privacy. There's no excuse for it. Not that I was mad or anything, and I do feel bad about reading his journals, but I did it. So now I just wanted some advice on how to handle this screw up. I just got wrapped up in his writing. And when I was done, I knew I messed up. That's why I came here. I thought maybe someone that's maybe done this before or been through something like this might offer some advice. So, more about us and our plans. We've talked about kids and marriage. We wanted to wait till I have finished school. We're not in a rush to get married. I should have added this in my post, sorry. Also, I trust him and our relationship is strong. In fact, I've never been happier. I just stumbled on his journals and messed up big time. I guess I freaked out a little. I hope he can forgive me. He will be home tonight. I am planning on cooking him a nice homecoming meal. I'm going to confess to reading his journals and hope he doesn't hate me for it. Alright, well, the community unanimously pulled OP's ear, telling her that it was not cool to read his journals. But some people were saying, well, now yeah, you have this information, maybe you can do something with it. And OP gave us a little bit more context regarding the things that they've spoken about and the fact that she's gonna come clean as soon as she sees him that night. So let's now move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends. But of course, before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with that update. So I went ahead and confessed that I read his journals. I apologized for what I did. He asked me why I did it and I didn't make any excuses. I told him I messed up big time and told him I'd never break his trust like that again. He didn't say it, but I could tell he was upset. After he calmed down a bit, we started talking about our future and what it may look like. He said he'd like to get married someday and could see me being the one. Oh my god, oh my god. He even said he'd like to have kids, which is something I do want someday. Then, after a bit of silence, he looked at me and there was definitely some hurt in his eyes, and asked me if there was anything in his journals that concerned me. After a bit, I told him I was afraid to admit this, but I was worried about how he talked about like he was tied down and missing the open road. I said that it scared me reading how much he missed being out on the road, with no responsibilities and nothing to worry about except finding a place to crash for the night or where to get a cold brew. That's his exact words from his journal. I told him I was afraid he might get wanderlust and just take off and not look back. He sat there for a while and didn't say anything. I thought that I may have messed up yet again by letting my fear take over my thoughts. It took a good bit before he took my hand and told me he loved me and couldn't imagine life without me, and that he does miss the carefree traveling. While he did enjoy his time traveling and working crazy jobs, and the adventure it was, he wouldn't want to go back to living like that. He asked how much I remember from his journal and did I miss the part about being broken down in Stanley, Idaho, where he spent 3 nights sleeping behind a cold dark barn with nothing to eat because he couldn't find work. Or the part where he got chased out of town by a bunch of good old boys in some backwoods town in Texas and how he nearly wrecked getting away from there. Laughing, he said he'd never want to do that crap again. Then he got this serious look, which he hardly ever does, and said that maybe if I thought he would really just up and leave, maybe he hasn't done enough to show me he loves me. I told him that wasn't true. I said that it was just my insecurities running wild. Then he confessed that before he met me, he wasn't sure how to do the boyfriend thing, and that he struggled a lot with, when we first started dating, on how to act and what to say, etc. He said he nearly broke it off with me several times out of fear of getting his heart broken or screwing up everything. Then he told me he'd learned a lot from me on how to be a better person, how to listen, and how to let someone get close. He said he's glad he found me and that this adventure we've been on is his best. Well, OP, I'm gonna call this a happy update, of course. Good for you for owning what you did and coming clean without any excuses. That's always admirable. Just don't do it again. And his last part about you guys being together, that is the best adventure he's been on, well, that just tells you a lot. He loves you, so just keep building on that and your relationship should grow stronger and you might have a future together. In any case, here's wishing you both the best in the future. Thank you so much for sharing, OP, and take care. Now, let's move on to the next post that, like I said in the beginning, also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user CrazyXGF17. My 28 male girlfriend, 26 female of 4 years is attempting to ruin my life. I can't deal anymore. Over the last year, I have found myself increasingly unhappy in my relationship with Avi. When we met, I was severely depressed and she was my sole support system. Avi and I have been long distance for the last 2 years. I spent the first year we were apart finally getting my head on straight. I just moved near her 4 months ago. I have realized that my relationship with Avi was increasingly toxic. She made no effort to try and get to know my friends or family. Instead, she was always trying to keep me isolated from everyone. Anytime I tried to talk about going back to school, she shot me down. She had me convinced that even though I had managed to start a fairly successful business, I was too stupid to succeed. My success was always written off as a result of connections or my parents' money. Her success was a result of hard work. If she failed, it was because I was bringing her down. It got to the point where seeing her made me have panic attacks. I used to sit in the parking lot of my apartment for up to an hour every day trying to calm down enough to see her. All the hard work I had been doing with my therapist was coming apart as I found myself getting into the same headspace I was in when I met Abby. My friends became increasingly concerned and started sending almost daily check-in texts. Abby got very upset when she read these texts. She tried to convince me that my friends were trying to turn me against her, with good reason. I was so turned around that I could barely function. I decided I needed to break up with her and get some space. Shortly after I made that decision, we had an awful fight and she broke up with me. One of my friends told me that it was another attempt at manipulation, that as long as I was stuck in the mindset of making it work, Abby would come back and use this to keep me trapped. I thought she was wrong. Last night, Abby came to my house. She said she was upset about the way things had ended. I resisted the urge to remind her that she had broken up with me. I made the mistake of letting her in to talk. Things ended in a screaming match. I don't usually lose control, but Abby pushed all my buttons, so I pushed back. She threw a vase at my wall. I realized that if she got violent with me, that things would end very badly, so I told her to leave or I would call the police. She said that she would tell the police I was violent. I was so tired I told her to go ahead. Neither of us had a mark on us and I was just exhausted. Eventually, she left. I missed work today because I was too upset. I work in the same building Abby does her student placement. I see her every single day. I can't deal with her. She's not in my department. The way things are going, I can't put up with it at all. I have no idea what to do, but things are going to get worse for me. Well, OP, in my opinion, the things that you should be doing are 1. Change your passwords in case she knows any of them. Block her on your phone and on social media, and go to your HR department and tell them that you had a fallout with your girlfriend and she threatened to tell the police a lie about you. Just in case she wants to do something similar at your workplace. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past her considering this whole craziness she's got going on, but just to be on the safe side. And finally, as a safety precaution, I would have my phone ready to record anytime you see her, just in case, she might lie about something and you would have it on tape that it's a lie. Again, it's a safety precaution, but with crazy people, you never know. And what do you guys think about this whole thing? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Other Kind of Mermaid says, stop talking to her, block her on your phone and social media. I said that. Do not let her into your house. I didn't say that. You may have to see her at work, but you should not talk to her. If she approaches you, walk away. I would strongly advise you to look for somewhere else to work. Just get the F away from her. She's an awful, toxic, abusive person. And OP responds, I'm not on social media. I've blocked her number. I am considering getting a new job. I don't know why it took me so long to realize how awful she is. Damn Purple Dress says, reach out to your manager. Just tell them you ended a really terrible relationship and this person works in the building, but you are managing. Don't leave a good job because of this person. Just head down, headphones on, don't linger on it. Her placement will end soon enough. If she continues to contact you or show up at your place, do call the police. Show her she does not intimidate you with her lies, and likely a person of authority will get her to realize she needs to back off. And Girder Shade says, file a police statement immediately. She sounds extremely dangerous and crazy. I'm willing to bet after you cut contact with her, she will most likely file a false statement that you assaulted her previously. Get the jump ahead and be prepared in case it happens so you aren't on your back foot. Additional information from OP's comments. I will tell my manager, but she's not an employee, she's a student on placement. Also, to give you all more context, my family has hated her from the beginning and were not particularly supportive of my decisions. Dating her. They think I need to live with the consequences of my decisions. I've moved because of Abby, and so they are on the other side of the country now. I do have a couple of friends who have been amazing through everything and have made it clear I can lean on them. Alright, well, the community is definitely helping OP out on what he should do, and they detailed some things that he should start doing right away, and OP gave us some context regarding his support network. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. I posted late last week asking for advice on dealing with my toxic ex-girlfriend. I wanted to thank everyone for your support and advice. A lot of you stressed that I needed to protect myself, and I decided you were right. The night after I posted, I called a friend and went over to her house where I proceeded to get drunk out of my mind. I woke up with the worst hangover in my life on her couch. Apparently, between all the drinking, I managed to tell her the whole story. She's been a great help. I spent the last several days sorting out a bunch of little things, including paying my landlord to change the locks. I ended up talking to someone at the police station. There was not much they could do, but I have started a paper trail in case Abby continues to try and harass me. I didn't have any proof that she threatened to report me for abuse, but I do have text messages from her confirming that she threw a vase, though she insists it was on the wall and not on my head. At work, my boss was very supportive of the situation. She made it clear that if things got bad, that I would not be the one leaving. She said she would talk to the school about Abby finishing her placement somewhere else because she was creating a hostile work environment. It made me feel a lot better. A big part of me was still blaming myself for everything that had happened, and it was nice to feel supported by someone in my life, especially since I gave up so many opportunities because of Abby and moved away from a place and business I loved. I blocked her number and I'm not on any social media sites. I did, however, hear that she tried to send Facebook message requests to my friends, accusing me of lying and all sorts of stuff. I did not have the foresight to warn anyone because I had not predicted how unstable she actually was, but someone let me know pretty quickly. I came home one day to a letter slipped under my door from Abby. I didn't think I was in any place mentally to read it and ended up calling a friend who read it and shredded it. On the plus side, I called up my old therapist and got recommendations to start therapy here again. There's a part of me that just wants to move back, but I've started to build a life here and I don't want her to take that away from me. I also decided that next year I will apply to go back to school. I can still hear her voice in my head telling me I'm too old and stupid to go to medical school, but I can't let her win. She's taken so much from me. I called my parents and spoke to them, but they were not supportive. Luckily, I have a couple of friends I didn't push away, so I have emotional support right now. Thanks again for all of the help. Well, OP, good for you. You've covered all the relevant bases and you're moving forward with what you want. You're gonna get help and you also have a support system. So good riddance to everything else and just keep moving forward. Here's wishing the best in the future for you, OP. Thank you for sharing and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.